So I and a few other fans that I've seen comment about this basically think that there's a chance that the A Song of Ice and Fire universe is in the Thousand Worlds universe, or at least that it is science fiction. The first point I want to talk about is in a Game of Thrones when Irri and Jiqui are telling Dany about how there were once two moons and one of them split open and 1,000 dragons flew out of it and came to the planet. Well, perhaps this moon was actually a spaceship or even a Volcran from the Thousand Worlds universe that came to the planet and bioengineered dragons. Something that could back this up is Preston Jacobs' video about the genetics of dragons. He proposes that there is a possibility that dragons only hatch when Valyrians with two Dragon X genes, as he calls it, are the only people who can hatch dragons. If this were the case, that would basically prove that dragons were genetically engineered and brought to the planet, and that the people who engineered them were the Valyrians. The reason why is that there is no benefit for dragons that would make them evolve to only be hatched by a certain species. And a certain group of people in that species at that, I don't know. The only way it would make sense for this to be the case is if they were engineered by the Valyrians for a specific group of people, which would be them, and that they were engineered as weapons for them to rule. Of course, there's no guarantee that this is the case, but there's evidence to back this up, and I recommend you watch Preston's series about the genetics of dragons. Another point that could back this up, or back up the sci-fi aspect at least, is that House Dane were said to have forged their house sword out of a fallen star, or a meteor most likely, but the problem is meteors are usually made out of stone and they don't have much metal in them. And the metal that's usually in them is iron, which would not make a sword as good as House Dane's is supposed to be, because it's pretty much supposed to be like a Valyrian steel. And user American Thinks pointed out that our spaceships in our world are made out of our most advanced metal. So if a sword was forged out of a fallen piece of a spaceship, which they say was a fallen star, then that would make a lot more sense for why the sword is as good as Valyrian steel, which, by the way, only the Valyrians, who might have had spaceships, knew how to forge. Now, I don't know if George is ever going to directly say that the story is sci-fi or Port of 1,000 Worlds, or if it's fantasy, which he has kind of said that, but you don't know if he's telling the truth because he hasn't finished the series, and he's not going to give it away for sure. And he might leave it as a mystery, but for now, only time can tell. I hope this at least made you think about the possibilities of the future of this series. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. And if you have anything else to say about this, then leave a comment.